All right, we should be recording, I think. Yep.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of the Transportation Board of the Town of Brookline to order. It is 6:30 p.m. on the 13th of November, 2024. Welcome. And just to make sure we have a quorum for the record, Amy or Sam, can you please call the roll of board members?
Jonathan,
Go ahead.
Here.
Nancy,
Here.
Shanali,
Here.
Wendy, I don't think it's here yet,
No.
and Brian.
I am here and I see your cat behind you. So
Yep.
you win the Zoom bingo piece for cats tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Sam, you have your hand up? Sam, you have your hand up? And the meeting is being recorded. You cannot speak. Okay, we're gonna play charades. This is fun. Okay, you can type it in the chat, Sam. We're gonna move on to public comments. Public comments. This is for items that are not on the agenda. If you wish to comment on an item on the agenda, there will be ample opportunity to do that on each item. And we, of course, would welcome that. However, if there are other things you'd like to comment before the Transportation Board, please raise your hand at this time using the raise hand function, and I will call upon you in the order in which I see you. Okay, I don't see any hands being raised, so I'm going to assume there is no comments at this time on non-agenda items. And like I said, we will certainly take comments as we get to them. The third item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the approval of the meeting minutes for the 16th of October, a request to remove the 30-minute parking limit on Lancaster Terrace, a request to convert 2 taxi stand spaces at 1333 Beacon Street, a request for an on-street accessible parking space at 16 Addington Road, and a request to increase the number of resident-only overnight parking spaces from 10 to 8 at the Fuller Street lot. So firstly, are there any items that a Transportation Board member would like removed and discussed? Nancy, I see your hand.
I just wanted to note, and I discussed this with Dan, is that 3C has, I believe, a typo. The no parking passenger loading zone, my version says 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And Dan informs me that should be 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Thank
So
you,
my
Nancy.
version.
I was just gonna mention that. That was the only thing I was gonna update. And sorry about the charades. I was unable to unmute myself. So that was what I was requesting. But that is the one update to the consent agenda.
Did you think you were going to convey that via charades to me?
It was worth a shot. Not my strong suit.
So my version says request to convert 2 taxi stand spaces at 1333 Beacon Street to tow-away zone, no parking, loading zone, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., comma, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., and no parking passenger loading zone, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So that should be 9 p.m., I assume, is what we're saying.
Correct.
Good catch, Nancy. You must be a lawyer. All right, is everybody clear? It's 9 p.m. And so let the record note that the motion for on the consent agenda for 3C, the typo that says 9 a.m. At the very end of that sentence will be 9 p.m. Okay. Are there any comments on any of these items from members of the public? You can use the raise hand function, and we would be delighted to hear your comments at this time. I see that we have 23 participants, and I do not see any hands being raised at this time, so I'm going to assume there are no comments. And since no one wanted to remove an item from the agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So move.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there a second?
Second.
And Jonathan, I see you unmuted. You seconded it. Okay, someone call the roll, please.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Sonali,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and still no Wendy, right?
Correct. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. We're going to move on to member update. Are there member updates for anybody? Okay, no updates at this time, and that brings us to the DPW update, Mr. Dan Murphy. Sorry, Commissioner, I wanted to acknowledge that you are here. Thank you for joining us, Commissioner. Sorry, Dan, please go ahead.
No, it's fine. So you've got the list in the package, and I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Obviously, construction's winding down. We're in November. We've got some utility work ongoing, but ending soon. We're gearing up for a busy 2025. A couple I'll highlight: the bonded wearing course project for Beacon Street, which will extend from Williston and Winthrop to Harvard Street. So it'll be that middle section of Beacon Street for next year. Hoping to get that done, start right after the marathon. There's also some Hammond Street will be bonded wearing courses, and Pond Street will also be redone early next year. Those are geared up for next year to start. We're working on our packages. We're getting our 5-year CIP plan for all the roads. We're gearing up for a busy 2025. Second thing I'll mention is the Gateway East bus lane pilot study. The survey is live, and if you want to go fill that out, there'll be signs out. You'll see it a lot, but it's brooklinema.gov/1986 to get to that. That'll bring you right to the survey. You can just click from there. The other thing, Coolidge Corner study. There's a Zoom meeting tomorrow night. That's at 6 o'clock, and if you want to sign up and go see that, that's brooklinema.gov/3816. The last thing I'll mention is the IPS. We got multimeters out front of Town Hall, two spots. They're solar. They added tap to pay. They have a larger screen. I think Dan said it was 9-inch, and it's color. And so that's the first couple that are part of the pilot study. There's more coming from IPS. There's going to be 11 on hold in single space. And then with the Flowbird, we're going to have 3 on Beacon Street and the median near St. Mary's. And then there'll be 10 on Harvard between Pierce and Kent Street on the westbound side. So those are coming, but the first 2 are installed. Just want to let you know that. And the last thing I'll say is the date tentatively of the date for the DRC. Next DRC meeting is December 9th. But the notice will be coming out soon. But that's all I got. If there's any questions on the DPW, anything you have, feel free.
Yeah, Dan, I had a question on the multi-space meters. In terms of data that we can get out of it, is that one of the things we're testing, or what sort of data do you expect to be able to generate from these things?
I'm going to defer that question to Mr. Dan Martin.
So the multi-space meters, we aren't gathering any really new data from them. They're the same as the old one. The IPS meters that we're going to be testing on Holden Street, they do have a feature in them for occupancy. So we'll know when a car is parked at them and when the car leaves. And that also allows us to try some new features if we want to enact it. One of them would be when a car leaves, it would reset the meter to 0. So there wouldn't be any time left behind when a car leaves, and no one could use that time to add to it. And then another feature we could try in the future is we could have it programmed so like the first 15 minutes, it would know a car pulled in, and that could be set up to be either a grace period where it's free, or we could put them at loading zones. So we could say you could be parked at a loading zone for 15 minutes, but if you're there longer, it would flash red. So the parking attendants would know that you're parking beyond a reasonable time for loading in a 15-minute area.
Okay, I bring this up because I know we discussed meters and meter rates a long time ago, and we talked about the fact that the current meters don't really give us any information on utilization, which was something that we kind of I think we all wanted. So, just to say, I'll be pretty reticent to want to approve anything like this unless we can start getting some information out of these things and letting us know what our utilization is. Otherwise, I don't really see the point, frankly. But that's just me.
Yep.
Any other questions on the Oh, sorry, go
I'll
ahead.
just add the single space meters will give us occupancy. That technology isn't available for this multi-space meters yet, though, but we'll keep looking to see if we can find another one, but it's not something they're offering right now.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions on the DPW update?
Can I ask, you guys had talked a while ago about Kent Street between Station and Harvard? You know what I'm talking about? You were gonna make it, was it you were gonna add parking or something? We were gonna look
We're
into repaving the whole thing? Yeah, what's
Yeah, on
going on
Kent
with that?
Street, we were gonna add, and you guys approved more parking meters to be installed on the side, that's currently posted as no parking. We did meet with the fire department, Todd Cantor and a few others, and there's concerns about the fire truck being able to access the buildings there. So, we're gonna have to reduce the amount of meters on that road, and we're still, in talks with them about what that's gonna look like.
Okay,
Reduce
might
the
wanna
amount that
think-
we'll, reduce the amount
Sorry,
that we'll
Amy?
add. Just wanted to clarify that. Not reducing what's already there, but adding less than we were going to add.
Right.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on the DPW update? Seeing none. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to item 5A. I'm just checking the time. We are good. Discussion and action on a request from the MBTA to remove 9 metered parking spaces on Pearl Street to create a tow-away MBTA bus only parking 6:50 p.m. 6:50 p.m. is the time we're supposed to do this. So there's going to be a period after bus only parking. Sorry about that. I did that last time too. Who's presenting this one?
I'm gonna kind of kick it off, but then we also have a representative from the T here, Alex. Let me make you a co-host. Yeah, so this is basically one of the new routes that the MBTA is proposing as part of the bus network redesign. They're looking to have a kind of layover space in this area, basically it's the end of one of the route. And they want a place where the bus can dwell for a little while and a bus driver can get off and use the bathroom, that kind of thing. But you'll learn some more detail about it through this presentation. Take it away, Alex.
Thanks, Amy. Hey, folks. My name is Alex Cox. I'm a senior transportation planner in the service planning department at the MBTA. And I want to talk today a little bit about why we're requesting this change and some of the benefits that it will provide to the town of Brookline. So this change is part of our bus network redesign process. If folks haven't heard about it, basically we are undergoing a comprehensive plan to update our bus network to better meet the needs of people for where they live, work, learn, and play. A lot of our bus network is kind of stuck in the trolley routes that the buses used to follow back in the 1800s. We have a lot of new employment centers and places that people want to go, and our bus network is not really keeping up with that. So that is why we kicked off this process. We're adding about 25% more bus service across the entire system. We're doubling the number of frequent bus routes so it would operate every 15 minutes or better at all times of day. Improving connections downtown and throughout the kind of outer areas of the Boston region. Also trying to improve bus reliability by adding transit priority measures and infrastructure updates. The first phase of our service changes is launching December 15th, and these are mostly in Everett, Malden, Revere, where we have a lot of transit-dependent populations, but we are planning to make more changes in the kind of central Boston region, in Brookline, in future phases, probably in the next 1 to 3 years. So this request is related to our proposed new Route 12 service. Route 12 would be a frequent route that would operate every 15 minutes or better from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. 7 days a week. Rush hour would probably be running about every 8 minutes, which is comparable to the Route 66 bus for folks who live in this area. And the Route 12, the goal is basically to provide Brookline residents and other residents along the route with a frequent connection between Brookline Village for the Green Line connection there, the Longwood Medical Area, a couple other major employment centers along the way, and Nubian Station on the Silver Line, Andrew Station on the Red Line, through South Boston, and all the way to the seaport. So because Brookline Village would be the first and last stop at the western end of the route, we would request some space for our buses to be able to lay over there. And the reason for a layover is that an operator can have a break at the end of their trip. They can make up time if the bus is running behind schedule, or make the buses a little bit more close together. Basically, with the frequency that Route 12 would be running at, our modeling shows that we would require at least space for 3 buses, so that buses wouldn't have to open their doors in the roadway or block the roadway if the space along the curb was taken, which is what happens with our current service that runs on Pearl Street, Route 60. We have an outbound stop, Pearl Street at Brookline Village, which is pretty close to the D line there. And when the bus stops there currently, it partially blocks the travel lane, it blocks the bike lane. So as a mid-route stop where that's just kind of a temporary inconvenience on Pearl Street, that's fine. But for a bus that's going to be laying over for up to 10 minutes, that we don't want to be blocking the lane of travel for that long. We looked into some other potential places that we could have a layover space on Pearl Street, and they unfortunately didn't work for a variety of reasons. On the north side of Pearl Street, where the separated bike lane is, we wouldn't be able to have passengers loading in that area because we couldn't accessibly deploy the wheelchair ramp into a lane where a cyclist might be coming. And the shuttle stop that's on the south side of Pearl Street wouldn't work for the amount of service that we would be planning to operate because that stop is already busy with the shuttles that operate from there. So the request would be to utilize the space that's currently taken up by these 9 parking spaces on the south side of Pearl Street, which are adjacent to the Brookline Place garage. They're closest to the Green Line station. So again, providing that connection for folks is important. Having the buses be able to accessibly serve the stop and allow people of all abilities to board without having to walk too far from the station, or without having to be discharged or board the bus in the street. And then again, there would be additional parking that would still be available further down Pearl Street. We wouldn't be touching any of the handicap spaces that are around the corner, closer to Brookline Avenue. And there's additional parking for folks who might be using these spaces to get on the D line. There's also parking in meter spaces over on the other side of the station on Station Street. And again, this analysis here just shows that if we only had 2 spaces available in the morning peak, our modeling shows that we would have a bus that wouldn't be able to pull into one of those spaces about 35% of the time, which is why we are requesting 3 spaces so that we wouldn't run into a situation where a bus would be blocking the street or letting passengers on and off in the street there. Happy to take any questions.
Well, thanks, Alex. So let me just say for the members of the board, we're not going to vote on this tonight. There's a few questions that still need to be answered, and we need to hear from a few more folks. as part of our deliberative process, especially folks in the sort of business community in and around the village, which this ties into many other things. So this tonight is just a discussion, and I'm using the chair's discretion to say we're not going to vote on this tonight. But let's ask our questions of Mr. Cox and hear what he has to say, and then we can certainly schedule this for a later date. I'm going to go to Transportation Board members first, as is our tradition, and then we'll turn to the public. So Jonathan, I see your hand was up first. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation. My question is related to the bike lane that runs next to those parking spaces. A bus is unlikely to be able to pull in up against the curb. Are we to expect that the buses are going to block the bike lane on a regular basis?
Well, we would want to ensure that the bus would be able to pull all the way up to the curb, so that it wouldn't have to block the bike lane there.
I mean, there's technically, and then there's reality, right? Are we really expecting that every bus driver is going to pull their bus all the way up against the curb line?
I mean, that's how we usually operate it at other terminal stations, and especially if an operator is going to be leaving the vehicle to take a scheduled break.
I mean, let's take a look at the picture at the top right here. Those are cars.
Mhm.
Now, buses are bigger than cars. I have a really hard time believing that the bus is not going to block the bike lane.
That's fair, Jonathan. Thank you. Nancy, I see your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I had a couple of questions. So this is this is a stop as well as a layover, am I correct? So that basically if the bus is scheduled to be every 15 minutes or fewer, that's how frequently there's going to be a bus using these spaces, am I correct?
So there would be a bus that would be scheduled to leave every 15 minutes, but we can expect that there would most often be more than one bus there, because either if an operator is coming to start their route, they might pull in and wait to leave in one of those spaces. We also have a lot of there's a lot of situations where with a route this frequent, a bus that's pulling in isn't necessarily going to be the one that's next to leave. Like it might pull in and then a bus that's been waiting there would run the next trip. So the trips would be leaving from this space every 15 minutes or better, but there would be more than one bus that would be occupying this curb space every 15 minutes.
Is that why it's not enough to have the 2 berths as opposed to 3? Is it because of the second bus as opposed to if it were just one bus? Presumably the shorter space would be acceptable.
Yes, so if this was a mid-route stop, like the stop that we currently have on Pearl Street, where a bus is just pulling over, letting passengers on and off, and then pulling away, then we would only need 1 berth space. But that was we know we would need at least 2 because of the volume of service that we'd have here. And our modeling showed that if we only had 2 berths, then about 35% of the time during the AM peak, a third bus might be trying to pull in and wouldn't be able to get into either of those 2 berths, which is why we requested 3.
Now, the other question, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to pose it with enough detail for you to give a complete answer, but I want to raise it because I know that there was a concern. So we had some comment by email prior to the meeting from residents of a building, I guess that's going to be blocked by this, that you're parking in front of a residential building, is that correct?
No, I think the residences are at the end of the street here in this photo. And there's parking spaces that are across the street there, which would remain. But there are no residences. We would only be adjacent to the parking garage there.
Okay. One of the concerns that they expressed was that delivery trucks and perhaps other vehicles as well were frequently, I don't know, I guess double parking or, sort of leaving their cars in the street rather than, doing something else. And that this created a situation where only one lane was available for cars. And they were concerned that by having the bus layover here, that's going to aggravate that situation, both creating dangers for pedestrians, but also just making the traffic situation quite difficult. Have you observed traffic conditions in this area? Are you in a position to comment on whether, what's likely to happen with respect to these delivery vehicles and just the general traffic flow?
Yeah, we haven't done any like detailed traffic analysis here. I mean, I know that there is pickup and drop off space for the businesses here around the corner, closer to the D-Line station, and then Brookline Place. There's also kind of a little circle, like a pull in and pull out, which is where those deliveries should be going. But a lot of the time, there is bad driver behavior, and cars or deliveries will be parking in the street and blocking traffic. I think that's something that we could try to deter with better enforcement. But I think that's kind of mainly a behavioral change, because there is space that is supposed to be used for pickup drop off on this street that isn't always used for that.
And when you say better enforcement, I assume that's just Brookline Police, right? I mean, there's nobody else who can enforce it.
Yeah, and in terms of we have cameras on board the buses that we have access to, but there's currently no way to enforce parking tickets or things like that automatically. So yeah, we do rely on our local law enforcement partners to enforce block bus stops and block travel lanes and things like that.
Okay, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other questions or comments from members of the board? Okay, seeing none, we will turn to public comment. If you would like to comment on this particular item, please use the raise hand function. I will call on you. And at that time, you can turn your camera on if you're comfortable and make your comment. And our first commenter will be Emily Bassett. Hope I pronounced your last name right.
Should be able to unmute in just a moment.
Thank you, Amy.
Are you getting a pop-up, Emily? For some reason, it's not with you doing anything.
Hello?
There we go.
Yeah, we can hear you, Emily. Go ahead, please.
Hi. My name's Emily Bassett, and I live in the apartment building that you see down at the end of the street there. And since they put the raised bike path on Pearl Street, that knocked off the whole side of the street for parking. Now, if you're going to take 9 more spots up, that leaves 6. And 3 are for handicap. That is not enough for all the people who live on Pearl Street. And then you said, we'll ask the parking garage for 15-minute. We don't know if they're going to do that or not. And so I have handicapped friends that this is impossible. Only 6 spots. It's unreasonable. And other trucks, garbage, Amazon trucks block it up. So what happens if there's a fire? The fire trucks can't get through. Pearl Street is too narrow for this. Why don't you put them on Brookline Avenue? And another thing, it said the bus route is to get to the seaport. You could take the green line and red line to the seaport. You don't need a bus. So we're really upset here. We don't need less parking spots.
Well, Ms. Bassett, let me ask you this. The 672 space parking garage that's directly abutting to that doesn't work for you? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, it belongs to Children's Hospital. I mean, Village of Brookline doesn't own that parking garage. So what happens if they say no? So what do caregivers or people that don't want to spend $18 for the parking garage?
And does the Villages have its own parking garage?
It's only for residents. There's no visitors parking. So anybody who wants to visit has to park on Pearl Street. And you're going to take away 9 spots? That's not right.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Wendy McMillan, you are up. Go ahead, please. Whenever you are able, feel free to unmute, turn your camera on if you're comfortable, and you can make your comment.
Hi.
Evening.
So my name is Wendy McMillan. I also live at the Village at Brookline, and I did send my comments in an email. But I've been asked by a neighbor to read a statement from her because she's been sick all week and she doesn't have the ability to do it herself. But then I'd like to add a few more comments after listening today. But this is from Tatiana Sebastian, who lives at 70 Pearl Street, the building that you see at the end of the road there. And she says, hi. I just learned by chance that the MBTA proposed to remove parking spaces in Pearl Street for the bus drivers parking for their rest. First of all, in the past, I used to get emails from the town of Brookline with detailed agenda for the meetings. This time in the morning, there was a page taped to the building entrance, and when I came back from work, the notice wasn't there. But what is much more disturbing is the proposal to remove parking spaces in favor of MBTA buses. I participated in the town meeting in person when it was decided to build a bike lane at the expense of parking spaces. At that meeting, I presented my concerns as well as the other tenants of the Village at Brookline, but we weren't heard. Now, please don't let MBTA park the buses at Pearl Street. Several years ago, I couldn't sleep because there were about 10 buses, Yankee type, parked on Pearl Street near the T station with running engines. My windows look onto Pearl Street and the noise was terrible. I called Brookline Police and asked them to intervene, pointing out that the outside at least was zoned as residential area, and that Massachusetts laws forbid the idling even in the daytime, unless it's very cold, and rest assured, if this project goes ahead, they will use this argument. Also, as you know, when the bus needs to pull out, reverse sounds are quite loud, especially for people who need to sleep at night. The police dispatched a car and I could see from the window that the officer talked to the drivers and then left. I was told the police cannot do anything because the buses belong to MBTA and not in their jurisdiction, and I could complain to MBTA. Allowing the buses to park at Pearl Street will be a disaster and will affect residents' lives and health. This is easier to prevent that than to be involved later in a lawsuit. Please remember that you were elected to care about Brookline residents and protect them, not work against them. Thank you, Tatiana. So, I'm going to tell you that I've been a resident at the Village at Brookline for probably close to 20 years. And we have had to endure many changes on that street when Children's came along. And I will tell you right now that when the parking garage was being built and we knew that we were going to lose the parking spaces in front of our building that we used for our guests, dropping off shopping. So we, because our parking lot is on a raised structure, or medical people coming in and out. When we were told we were losing them, we were told by the town in the meetings to work out something with children's and their parking garage to allow us to park in there for a certain amount of time at either a no cost or low cost. And they refused, and they basically told the town not to take our parking spaces away. So that is not an option for us unless we want to pay big bucks. So I'm on this street every single day walking my dog. The trucks that are parking are not the trucks that go around the corner and drop off supplies to Children's Hospital. These are the Amazon trucks, the food trucks. They're the moped delivery. We have moped deliveries that go up and down the raised bike path. Like, we have the blue bikes that pull onto the pathway where I'm walking my dog because there's no, they don't want to go the extra 2 inches to get their bike at the end of the bike, where the blue bike thing is. But at the end of the day, this street has 2 lanes for the traffic. And then it has 2 bike lanes, a raised bike lane, which take up a lot of space, and then the regular bike lane. And there is ongoing traffic issues. We discussed this at meetings in the past, that once the whole Route 9 was changed, we would have cut through traffic. They said, no, that's not going to happen. We have cut through traffic all the time. And these cars are speeding because of the lights. They want to get away from the Route 9 traffic lights and just speed their way onto Brookline Ave or wherever else they're going. There is speeding, there is double parking. That corner that you see there is so dangerous because you can't see what's coming when you're on the other side of that. So when I'm pulling up to take my parking space, to go to my parking space, the amount of times I've almost been hit by people coming around that corner because you cannot see them. So I come at a snail's pace to protect myself and whoever's in my car. This is not the right place. We have shuttles all day long. Sometimes we'll have 3 or 4 shuttles, parked and then coming through. We on the weekends and when the MBTA is down, we have all of these coaches come in and they can't pass each other half of the time. It's ridiculous. So I'm begging you to listen to us and know that this is the wrong street. There is residents that live on this street. There is a whole lot of construction that's already happened on this street. It is busy. It is crazy. It is not safe. And this is just going to add to the frustration. So I'm really hoping that you'll listen to us, because so many times we've been let down by the town when it comes to us bringing things that we have to live with on a daily basis to you. We can only give you our lived experience, and our lived experience is telling you it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's too much to ask of us. And this street, this is not Brookline Ave. This is a small street that's been overused already. Those young trees that
Ms. McMillan, can you please conclude? We've definitely heard you.
Just at the young trees that are there, they'll be destroyed by the buses. And I'll end it there. I'm sorry, I'm just very frustrated about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Nope, I much appreciate your time and thank you for commenting. You clearly have a lot of experience. We appreciate you sharing it. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this particular item at this time? Please use the raise hand function and we would be happy to hear from you. Okay, not seeing any hands going up. So as I mentioned, we're not going to be voting on this tonight. Thank you, Mr. Cox, for the presentation. Thank you to the neighbors for your comments. We're going to continue to do our due diligence on this topic and make sure we hear from stakeholders, and that we can make sure we have all the information that the board thinks it needs. So this might come up at December, it might not, I don't know yet. But if it does, we certainly will do our best to let everybody know. And we'll move on at this time. We are on to where are we? 5B, discussion and possible action to alter the Brookline traffic rules and regulations, section 4, bus stops and the parking of buses to allow a bus to park and the operator to leave. Well, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that that's completely related to item 5A. And since we're not gonna vote on that tonight, Amy, am I out of my mind to say we can skip this one for now?
No, it definitely is related, but I will say it's a general regulation change is being proposed. It wouldn't like be
Your
isolated to
name
just
was
that
up
location.
there.
It would be applied to any location that we put that designation on for bus parking. But yes,
Okay,
certainly punt it.
let's see, how are we doing for time? No, we're good. So let's leave that one. Unless I'm gonna look at my colleagues on the board. Does folks feel like we should take this up this evening? I guess there is a townwide prohibition against leaving your bus, and the proposal is to amend that to allow folks to leave. Jonathan, I see your hand.
I don't see how this affects an individual location one way or the other.
So you
It's
think
an
we should hear it?
overarching- Sure.
Let's hear it then. Go ahead, Amy. Or Sam, or Dan, or Dan.
All right. Yeah, so basically, this would enable a layover spot like what we were talking about specifically on Pearl Street, but this is just a general regulation change. Right now, the way that our regulation is written,
There.
a driver cannot leave a bus
No.
if it's parked in any kind of zone, designated zone. But this proposed change would allow a bus driver in a designated bus parking zone, it has to be specifically designated to leave the vehicle.
Okay. So I'll go out on a limb here. I say I didn't know we had this regulation. It was news to me. I'm pretty sure our regulations don't apply to the MBTA anyway, so kind of a moot point for them. I guess it would apply to the few coach buses that we license in the town, like Flix. But I don't know. Jonathan, I see your hand though. Please enlighten me, good sir.
That was my question too. Does this create a scenario where a Flix driver is just going to be able to leave their bus on Harvard Street?
Well, so it would have to be designated as a bus parking zone, not just a regular bus stop. So as long as we didn't change the designation, then no.
Okay.
So are there any designated bus parking spots in town now?
Not that I'm aware of. I do not believe so.
Okay. Nancy, go ahead, please.
I think there's the potential concern
I'm just looking.
that once we change the regulation, that a bus driver other than the MBTA, who is at least aware that there is the potential that a bus can stop and the driver can leave the bus for short periods of time, might just do it, okay, in violation of the rules, but vehicles violate rules all the time. This is not a surprise. So I'm of the opinion that unless and until we create a designated bus parking zone, there's no need for this. And so I would prefer to wait and do it if and when we designate. The first time we designate a zone, that's the first time we need it. If we don't need it, don't do it.
I agree with you, but I want to do what the board wants. So how about this? How about we have heard a little bit about it. Why don't we take this up next month when we think we'll be taking up the MBTA's request? And while Jonathan, you're absolutely correct that this does apply townwide, given that there are no current designated bus parking spots, I think we'll be okay waiting a month. So unless you strongly object, because it is on the agenda, I'm happy to talk about it. But given, I think Nancy's right. It's philosophical at this point. All right, so I'm gonna move us on to 5C, which is discussion and possible action on the request from Torah Academy to change the existing passenger loading zone on Williston Road at Torah Academy to a tow-away zone, no parking, school pickup stroke drop-off only, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday to Friday. Say that 3 times fast, someone, I dare you. Sam, is that you, Amy?
Did you just use a typewriter term there, right there?
Stroke?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
All right,
It's
good for you.
studying too much Irish history and having to say Derry, stroke Londonderry. So there you go. Stroke City. Who's got this wonderful item?
Yep, this one's for me, and as you stated, the regulation change is a request from Torah Academy. The request is in your attachments, and it is being asked for to help with compliance, enforcement, the safety of the students, and provide a place for the parents to drop off. And Rabbi Oakes is here to answer any questions, and he might want to provide some comment.
Rabbi, we would love to hear from you. Would you like to make a statement at this time? You're muted, sir. I can't hear you.
Should be able to unmute in just a moment.
Oh, apologies. That was on our end.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does everybody hear me? And I
Indeed.
also have my good friend here, Jesse Hepter, who helped me out with this. I just had the issue today. The sign that's currently there has different hours when you can't be there and when you can be there. And people park there and don't leave when they're supposed to leave. And I had right in front of the school, 2 cars were parked, and right by dismissal time, parents are coming out. They don't have a place to pull up their car in front of the school. So the way it's written now, since you only don't have to be there for an hour or 2 in the morning and an hour or 2 in the afternoon, someone who parks in the afternoon stays there till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or at different dismissal times, and really messes up our dismissal. That's so we wanted to make it clear cut, easy, and there shouldn't be any ambiguity, and no one should be there. I mean, I'm wondering if there's something in the law books about a school and parking in front of the school. I'm just wondering if there's something in the books about a school zone and parking in front of the school. If there's spaces, or there's supposed to be a certain amount of space where no cars could come just for drop off and pickup. That's my comment.
Thank you, sir. I don't know the answer to your question. I don't believe there is, but we certainly will check that out. I can tell you that we tend to err on the side of caution and safety especially when it comes to schools and children. So obviously that is incredibly important to all of us, as I know it is to you. Nancy, I see your hand. Go ahead, please.
First, I have a question. What is the current no parking time? One in the so it's just in the morning and then in the afternoon, but what's the exact, is it a 1 hour? Is it a 2 hour?
It's a restriction for passenger pickup and drop off only, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
So that means theoretically you could park for 2 hours between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Correct.
Right.
And like I'm saying, what's happening is someone parks at 12 a.m. doesn't move his car by 2 p.m. Someone today parked there to get some sort of from the rest to pick up some food from the restaurant on the corner, so.
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to this. I'm just a little concerned. We're taking away day by day, week by week, year by we're taking away more and more parking in Brookline. And it's frustrating to me, I'm sure it's frustrating to you, that in order to enforce existing regulations, we have to simply remove the possibility of parking at all because there are people who aren't parking in the appropriate times. I think that's unfortunate. I guess if it is a safety issue, then maybe we have to do it. But I'm wondering if the staff has any ideas in terms of improved signage or anything that might be done at least on a temporary basis to see if there's some way we can solve the problem without simply prohibiting parking. How many spaces is this, by the way?
2 spaces.
Okay, so, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 2 spaces here, 2 spaces there. I'm just wondering from the staff if they have any ideas. Or, I mean, I know the police are, obviously they're stretched. It's very hard for them to enforce all this, but is there any way to work with the police to say that in certain areas like this where there is a school, perhaps there could be some greater enforcement effort around that, that particular spot. It sounds like it's a particular time, which is, as it gets close to 2 o'clock. I'm just wondering if there's possibly some alternative solution, not ruling out, sympathy and willingness to do this.
Mhm.
So, go ahead, Rabbi.
I mean, we've tried different things over the years. That signage has changed. I don't even remember all the different types of signs that we've had there. The problem continues to persist. And I personally, I would feel that in front of a school building, there should be an absolutely no parking zone. It's not just drop off and pick up. You have parents coming to take kids to appointments, bring them back from appointments. You have sometimes deliveries to the school. It should be a space that should be just for a school. I think it's a big safety issue. And it's just what I feel. I mean, it shouldn't be a place where people could park. That's my personal opinion.
I think one
So,
thing,
Rabbi,
Nancy,
sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Dan.
one thing, Nancy, we could do to help enforce the current regulation is if it was changed to a tow zone. I think that might deter some people from leaving their car there.
So, Rabbi, can I ask you a question, if I might, sir? So it sounds like your preference would be that this be a no parking tow zone, safe in the knowledge that parents would likely pull up and drop their kids off. And forgive me for not knowing this. This is an elementary school, and what are the youngest students at your school
First
there?
graders. First
So
through 8th grade.
do you think it's feasible and likely that parents would allow their first graders to get out of the car without them sort of stopping and coming around and then opening the door and letting them go?
I don't quite understand what you're asking.
Sorry, my concern, and I'm not opposed to a tow zone and no parking zone as opposed to a loading zone, which is what is sort of being requested right now. The loading zone, I think, would allow parents to open the doors for their kids to go into the school and come out of the school, as opposed to not being able to do that if it was a tow zone. And so I'm just trying to figure out what is the best alternative for you and your school. Guess I'm not being clear. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
No, you're clearly a learned man, and I'm not being clear. Let me go to Mr. Hefter, and then let me see if I can say it in a better way. Go ahead, Jesse. I think we're gonna have to allow you to unmute.
Good evening. Hi, Brian.
Evening, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Jesse Hefter, Precinct 14, town meeting member, but I'm representing myself, Brookline School Committee, but again, representing myself, and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, but representing only myself, working together with Rabbi Ox as a former board member of Torah Academy and former grandparent of three former students, actually. First thing is that we're not asking for a tow zone. We're just asking, per the letter I wrote, no parking. Okay, so if a tow is what a driver earns by breaking the no parking rule, then they might get towed. But the sign was supposed to only say no parking, school zone 8 to 6, Monday to Friday. I believe that's what you said, Brian, at the beginning. Second thing I wanted to say is that it's a narrow street to start with. So if there are cars parked and people bring vans in, or cars to drop off elementary school students, it's tight already. It's a two-way street. We're not advocating to change the directionality. But in that very short block, that's only 2 buildings, the side of the restaurant or beauty salon on Deacon Corner, and then the school, and then the side of a house on Salisbury Road. So we're not asking to change the directionality, but we are very concerned that by allowing cars to stay there during drop off and pickup that are not related to the school, we see it every day, that parents would have to, be parking in other places that are for sure no parking. And the third thing I'd say is that because it's such a short street, residents and visitors who need to park close to Beacon Street have at their disposal a significant portion of Salisbury Road, which is parking on one side only and only in one direction. The part that's closer down towards Washington Street is obviously filled a lot during the day with Driscoll faculty and staff through permits, but there are other parts of Salisbury Road between Salisbury and Dean that are available during the day, and further back on the road that the school is currently located on, Williston Road. And so people who are using the space in front of the school are doing it with the knowledge that they are blocking the school. And so I think simplifying the signage to say no parking during the day is not going to, hopefully it'll change behavior, which would be to Nancy's point. But ultimately, what we want to do is maintain a very safe environment for the students, both during drop off and pickup, and as Rabbi Ox pointed out, as well for the activity that goes on during the day. As kids leave for trips, as kids leave to go to the park down in Waldstein Park for activities, as kids are getting on a bus, as kids are going for appointments, having cars not related to the school parked in front for long periods of time during the day is not a safe situation.
Dr. Hefter. And I put in the chat what the proposed language is for everyone's benefit. So it is, and I guess I'll just say it just to be clear. The proposal is, of course, now I can't see it. The request is, the staff recommendation is that it become a passenger loading zone. Sorry, it alter the passenger loading zone on Williston Road to a tow-away zone, school pickup, drop-off only, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Just so we're all clear. Is that
And it
right,
will
Dan?
say- Yeah, but it was going to say no parking, and then underneath that would be the school pickup drop off only 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, with a tow-away
Yes.
zone on top.
So
Yes, Dan.
it would not use the term tow-away zone, or it would?
It would. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. That is clear now, and Rabbi, that makes my my questions to you moot. So apologies again. Does anyone have any questions for the staff or the petitioners at this time? Are there any comments from the public on this agenda item? You can use the raise hand function, and we would be happy to hear from you. Okay, I don't see any hands going up, so I will turn back to the board for our internal deliberation. I think this item came to us in March this year, and I think at the time there was some neighborhood some neighborhood chatter about what was being proposed. I understand that. I've talked to a few folks from the neighborhood, and I understand their concerns. However, as I said earlier, to me, this is a safety issue, and there's young kids. We've all interacted with young kids, and we know that they don't always make the best decisions or look both ways. So my inclination is to approve this in the interest of safety. But I'm curious to hear from everyone else on the transportation board what they think. Or if someone wants to make a motion, we can entertain that at this time. And Nancy, to your point, I hear what you're saying about the slow whittling away of parking spaces. Absolutely, and you're not wrong. It's come up significantly in a lot of our discussions. I don't think we remove them without due consideration or usually with a safety concern. And I do think we need to be better at kind of thinking more holistically about them. I will say that.
Yeah, I must say I'm a little bit influenced by the fact that there's nobody here from the public opposing this. You know, no neighbors. I don't know if the neighbors that you spoke to, Brian, sort of assumed that you would pass along their comments, but I mean, if there isn't any opposition from the neighborhood or others, then you know, I'm persuaded to go along with this.
Okay. Shanali, anybody else? John? Is there anybody want to make a motion at this time?
I would make a motion, although I don't know if I have the language.
Would your motion sound something like recommending altering the passenger loading zone on Williston Road to a no parking towaway zone, pickup and drop off only 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, Shanali?
It would sound exactly like that. So moved.
Thank you, Shanali.
Seconded.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let's see. Dan, I think you got to call the roll on this one.
Nancy,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Okay.
and the motion.
Dr. Hefter, Rabbi, you have our
Very much.
approval.
Wow.
It'll take a couple of weeks to go through the process. It should be out there. There's a certain cooling off period. So hopefully by early 2025, you'll see these up, depending on how many signs we have to change in the town. But thank you for looking out for your students.
Thank you. I'm very thankful to you. I'm very thankful to Jesse for helping me out with this. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good evening.
all. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we're going to move on to 5D, discussion and possible action on roadway management, maintenance, and preservation policies and changes to the complete streets policy and sidewalk ramp construction policy. Commissioner, shoot, the moment you've been waiting for, ma'am.
Actually, I'm glad to be here. You always really have such interesting agendas and touch so much, really across town. So thank you all for your work. But yes, we are here to talk about some policies. We gave these to you last month, and I gave you a little overview. So, and Amy's going to talk about these, and I think that staff did a nice job, kind of with their summary memo on why you have them. But just as a refresher, the select board directly tasked us with creating new and modifying existing policy to streamline DPW processes. Specific processes, efficiency, and deliverables, like really looking for us to, sort of expedite our deliverables across the town in our public right of way. The goal is to maintain our overall infrastructure in a state of good repair, while also prioritizing traffic calming, complete streets, vision zero, sidewalk, and bike accommodation work. So what we're really looking to do is we have a full inventory of our public right of way. So that's the roadway condition. We have a full inventory of the sidewalks, and that's all sidewalks, concrete, asphalt, brick, and the ramps. And we are looking to prioritize all of our work where we are adding the greatest value and addressing the greatest need for the town. So I have certainly more that I'm glad to have more of a conversation about this and some examples. I think before I turn it over to Amy, I just want to take this opportunity to say that you have incredible staff that are supporting all transportation and engineering functions. So the four staff that are on this call care so much about multimodal accommodation, about pedestrian safety, bike accommodations, and the work that they have been able to do with this very small but mighty team is incredible. And there's really, really exciting work in the pipeline. So I think there's a lot for us to all be really excited about going forward. And I'm looking forward to prioritizing our work so that we can start to see significant improvements more quickly across town. So with that, I am going to hand it over to you, Amy. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to share my screen here. That one, sorry. Getting to the right one. There we go. All right. So again, this is kind of an update to two existing policies. That's the Complete Streets policy and the sidewalk ramp construction policy, and then proposing a brand new policy, the roadway management, maintenance, and preservation policy. I won't spend too much time on the why because Commissioner Tooth did a really great job on that. But essentially, we are just trying to use the resources that we have as efficiently as possible, make sure that we're spending our money on the places that need that specific type of investment the most, and addressing the various goals that we have, maintaining our existing assets, of course, and then improving certain streets that need additional accommodations for different modes and reaching our accessibility goals. Really just trying to be the best stewards of the town funding that we can be. So a couple of challenges that we've repeatedly come against with the current policies and how they work together is, we've just had a hard time keeping up with the normal deterioration and wearing of roadway surfaces throughout the town's network. Some of the processes that are detailed in the current policies just aren't quite as streamlined as they need to be, and kind of ends up lengthening the process so that we can't take action on the pavement preservation activities as quickly as we would like to. So that was one thing that we wanted to see if we could fix. But then also the Complete Streets projects that were kind of coming out of this pavement management prioritization process, was kind of being driven by that process, being driven by a maintenance activity that was triggering it, rather than being the improvements being triggered by, identifying the areas with the highest need and that would realize the greatest benefit. So I'm just going to kind of go over a couple of the couple updates that are captured in these new policies. I think the Commissioner mentioned the cost benefit analysis. We are doing that to some degree now. We are proposing to do it to a point where we're really prioritizing roadways for the different treatments, targeted treatments that happen to them. So depending on what their condition is, they might need, something more intense, like a full roadway reconstruction, like we're having on Washington Street, or they might need something that just, the road's in pretty decent condition, but we have to do, a little bit of maintenance to it to keep it in good condition so that it doesn't deteriorate into a state that would cost more to revive. We also are proposing these policies in a way to kind of decouple the roadway maintenance efforts from infrastructure improvements that would, add capital improvements to the roadway. And this would hopefully, we're intending this will streamline the pavement condition work, make it happen faster and more efficiently, And we'll also be spending our money for complete streets on places that need it the most. We also don't want to make sure that, we want to make sure that we mention that ADA compliance and effectively addressing those needs is a major part of this. We are federally required to replace ramps and make sure that we're providing ADA accessible accommodations. We do certain types of work on the roadway, and we want to continue this, and we want it to be done even more efficiently and effectively. That's why we are requesting additional funding to go into the sidewalk funds that we're already using to do sidewalk repair and construction and ramp repair and construction. And we'll use this funding to try to get out ahead of the pavement preservation work by doing those sidewalks and ramps before we do the pavement work. We also are looking to more effectively implement the complete streets upgrades that we want to do throughout our network. There's a lot that we want to do, so it's difficult to say that one street is more deserving than another, but there's kind of a subset of our streets that I think that we thought needed the most attention the soonest, and those are the ones that have the highest volume of traffic. So we're kind of prioritizing those in our complete streets policy, but that definitely doesn't mean that we wouldn't, we wouldn't focus on other streets if opportunities arise or once those high volume ones are completed. We also are looking at the widths of the streets and prioritizing ones that have enough width that can actually support separated bicycle infrastructure, since that's so important with those high volume streets. And so these projects, when we're doing these complete streets full upgrades, these will be funded rather instead of being funded through the pavement preservation, as we've been trying to kind of do. This will be a capital investment project funded either through our capital improvement program or through the state TIP. So some expected outcomes of this, like we said, we want to really just align our resources as efficiently as possible so that we are getting the safest, most accessible, and most resilient roadway network that we can. We want to increase our ability to maintain our roadway assets so that they don't deteriorate into a position where we have to spend more money to bring it back. And we want to focus our capital funds where the need is the greatest, using our Vision Zero action plan, for example, which is currently underway, using our complete street project list, using the Green Routes Bicycle Network Plan, and using Pedestrian Advisory Committee priorities, and lots of other resources that currently exist and that will exist into the future. All of those plans is how we decide where the needs are, where the greatest needs are, and that's how we want to focus those capital funds. I am happy to take some questions and may kick some over to other parts of the team as well, depending on what they are.
Well, Amy, thank you. And let me, Commissioner, I see your hand. Just give me 1 second. I just wanted to echo your comments on the excellent work that the folks here do. And we don't say it enough, but Amy and Dan and Sam and Dan, thank you. And yeah, Christmas is next month, and drinks will be on me somewhere. I don't know where yet, but we'll figure it out. Commissioner, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to note so that there are the 3 policies as we've said, but the update to the sidewalk ramp construction policy that was provided also to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee and the Disability Commission last month when you received the comments. They were busy. I was busy. I've committed to them that they're excited about the process and the improvements and the opportunities that they see there, but I'd like to wait on a vote on that particular policy. If we could maybe do that in December, because the three of us are going to get down and talk a little bit more about kind of procedure and what that looks like. So I just want to give them some more time, and I'm going to go to the Disability Commission in December, which is before the T-Board meeting. So let's talk about it, or as much as you'd like to. Those changes are a little bit more focused on again, process and prioritization, which really align with what we're talking about, but not looking for a vote on that this evening.
So I guess I'd also just add, Commissioner, that a lot of the policy changes that are sort of suggested here come from our shared experience on this board. We've been through this now several times with several projects where the current policy kind of required a proverbial bulldozer when a shovel was needed. And so I think these changes will give us and the staff, more importantly, the flexibility to use the right policy for the right projects and use the right tools for the job. At least that's how I see it, and I intend to support these. And I agree, we'll take them all up except the Complete Streets one tonight, if possible, to give you that more time. Sorry, sidewalk, to give you that more time, Commissioner, to do our due diligence, because we love process here in Brookline. We just love it. David Trevette, the one and only. Go ahead, please, sir. You might need to be allowed to unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. Even though we're not going to do a vote on it tonight, I wanted to make a quick comment, having just sort of reviewed the policy and had some exchanges with Aaron, that it's always been a thorn in our side that large-scale pedestrian improvements had to be driven by the roadway condition. So it was like only when you were doing a roadway could you consider doing the sidewalk as well. And so what is being proposed in the new policy is a dramatic and wonderful improvement to allow sidewalk needs to drive a program of sidewalk improvement. So I want to just get that quick positive comment out there, even though we'll come back to it at the next meeting. Thank you.
John, thank you as always. Much appreciated. John Bowman, let's hear from you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the intention of these policies to be able to focus investment on where it's needed most. I have some concern that by uncoupling the roadway maintenance budget from the Complete Streets investment, there might be a net decrease in money spent on Complete Streets investment. And I'm just wondering whether that's a valid concern, or how Amy, you and the other staff expect the investment in Complete Streets to be affected by this policy change.
I take a first stab at that, and then Amy may have some other thoughts as well. So we currently actually have quite a lot in the pipeline in the CIP. So in terms of investment, obviously there's the Washington Street corridor, which is $29 to $30 million for that Complete Street project, and we're simultaneously going to be designing Upper Washington Street, which is going to be a town-funded project, which is Complete Street project as well. Then we have the Beacon Street project, which is coming right behind. We're going to be starting the Bridle Path Complete Street work and design shortly. So we'll have two major projects going on. The Complete Streets requires an incredible amount of design engineering and sort of iteration and public process. So we have those, and then we have funding for Amy mentioned sidewalk, and we're looking to double that funding if possible. We've already increased it in the last couple of years. And then there's funding that we've requested for Vision Zero, for traffic calming, And so we're seeing those as those intervent and bike accommodations so that we'll be able to direct those dollars where we need them most. It may overlap with some of the roadway maintenance and it may not, but I think the unintended consequence of complete streets is it has brought general regular maintenance to a crawl. And we're at a place right now where I'm really sounding the alarm that sort of years where the roads haven't had the investment that they need. We're in a critical place where our roads, the condition of our roads they're deteriorating significantly. And so really it's a safety issue for us to be able to maintain our roads in good repair. So I actually think you will see more impactful work across the entire network with these modifications. Amy?
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree with that, because we are, using things like the Vision Zero Action Plan and other resources to target those complete streets funding where it's needed most instead of, spending that money on a bump out or a new crosswalk on a street that just happens to be getting resurfaced. That might be a very low volume street that, we don't see a lot of pedestrians on, that doesn't lead to a park or a grocery store or a bus stop or anything like that. So I, making sure that we're, excuse me, using those resources to channel the funding that we do have for complete streets, I think will get us more bang for our buck in complete streets.
And there still will be opportunities for them to overlap. I mean, we're already looking at our, we look at, this cost benefit value model for the roads, and we're looking at what's coming up. And so it certainly doesn't mean also that there can't be painting and other things that are going to sort of help us in the short term and long term with whether it's bike accommodation, and we'll be doing ramp improvements. So those things will continue.
Yeah, like Beacon Street or Hammond that we're engaging with now.
Great examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thanks, John. Any board members have any questions or comments? I know we brought this up last month, but happy to have that discussion.
I'll just make a plug, or I don't know if it's so much a request, but it looks like in the preservation policy, there's going to be a lot of the inventorying and keeping like maintaining an up-to-date inventory. I would just make a plug that could be posted maybe somewhere on the website or somewhere where people could have it accessible to them to be able to see, because so many questions come up all the time about, from the public about when is this road, getting fixed, or so I think it would head off a lot. And I think it would just be nice from a town perspective to be able to see that information if it was in a place where we could access it.
I think that's a great suggestion, Stein. We've been talking about a dashboard where, we could have a map and you can see the condition, and then you can also see, sort of what's planned and what's been done. So I agree. I think we need to make the information available. Yeah.
Okay, other public comments on this item? If members of the board are done, if you would like to comment on these requested policy changes, please raise your hand and I would be delighted to call upon you. I see Annie Lindenboim. It's unmute. I'm sorry, Amy.
It's Amy. No, I just wanted to, I haven't been able to look at this yet, but I just saw it on the agenda, and I just want to give, I'm really super glad that this is happening and that they're able to take a breath and do things a little differently, because I live on Chestnut Street, which has been like the source of tons of work, tons of neglect, tons of redundant work, and most recently sidewalks being redone, some of which were in really good condition. So I'm glad that there's going to be the option to maybe take a breath when there's not an emergency and kind of coordinate all of the work that's being done. So I look forward to seeing it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. there any other comments, questions? All right, seeing none, let's turn back to the board. So Commissioner, can you just talk to us a little bit about what the next steps might be, assuming this gets approved or these get approved?
Yeah, so what will happen is we will take the updated policies to the select board for their review and approval. And then at that point, we will, staff is going to be working on, they have a lot of information already, as you know, but they'll be putting together sort of priority lists based on work that, works that are already in the queue, other what they think sort of some of the top priorities are, and they're going to bring that back to the T board for your review and input, so that ultimately we will have a list of priorities that everyone has vetted together that we can work from, and whether that's grant opportunities, mitigation opportunities with development, et cetera. So next step is the select board, and after that, I feel like there's a lot of things that are coming after that in terms of our work overall on the roadways, and then prioritizing the future work to come. And frankly, we have a lot of work right now that we just need to get out the door for the next calendar year.
So just to be clear, thank you for that. Just to be clear, so the request from staff is to approve the changes to the roadway management, maintenance, and preservation policy. I'm sorry, approve that. And then also approve the changes to the complete streets policy with a recommendation to the select board that they also approve them. Is that accurate?
Yes, thank you. And then we'll look for the same in December on the sidewalk.
So do folks on the board understand what the request is? And that's certainly something that I'm prepared to support at this time. If somebody would like to make a motion, we can do that, or we can continue to talk about it.
Should we do them separately or together? I mean, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve both of them.
Yeah, that's together
That's
seems
fine.
fine.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there a second?
Second.
Jonathan. Somebody want to call the roll?
Nancy,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Shanali,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you,
all.
Commissioner. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you very much.
So those are approved. We will move on to new business, which is Shanali Guadino is leaving us. Shanali, we're going to miss working with you. Thank you so much for all you've done.
It's been enlightening. It's been fun to be a part of all of this, and I appreciate working with you guys. It's been a good team to be a part of, and the staff has seen so much change in the short time that I've been on the board, and you guys are doing a nice job of maintaining some consistency and some stability. So thanks for having me, and thanks for my flowers for today. Those were lovely. Nice little surprise I got. Appreciate that. So.
Well, best of luck with everything, and I wish you rest, but that's probably not going to happen. But I wish you that anyway. And we're going to very much miss seeing. I for one, am going to miss seeing Penny Lane. That was always a nice touch. Oh,
I was trying to get her to come over.
I hear you. Mine only comes when I don't want them to come.
Yeah, I know. She's got like her toy torn up on the ground.
Thank you.
There she is.
Yes,
There's a good guy. You'll see her in the neighborhood.
I know. Penny will be a wonderful big sister for sure. Thank you, Shanali. Okay. Is there any other new business anybody wants to bring up? Seeing none. Shanali, you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Sleep time. So moved.
There you go. It's moved, and without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shanali. And good evening. We'll see you next time.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.